My name's Aron Ralston. My parents are Donna and Larry Ralston of Englewood, Colorado. Whoever finds this, please make an attempt to get it to them.
Aron Ralston, the man behind the true story of 127 hours, drank his own urine and carved his own epitaph before amputating his arm in a Utah canyon. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click on the notification bell for more interesting history. A reading from Katie Serena's article on the website allthat'sinteresting.com, published on June 10, 2019. You can find the link at the description box. After seeing the 2010 film 127 Hours, Aron Ralston called it so factually accurate, it is as close to a documentary as you can get and still be a drama, adding that it was the best film ever made. Starring James Franco as a climber who is forced to amputate his own arm after a canyoneering accident. Initial screenings of 127 Hours caused several viewers to pass out after seeing Franco dismember himself while dangling from a cliffside. They were even more horrified when they realized that 127 Hours was a true story. But Aron Ralston was far from horrified. In fact, as he sat in the theater watching the harrowing story unfold, he was one of the only people who knew exactly how Franco must have felt. After all, Franco's story was just a dramatization of more than 5 days Aron Ralston himself really spent trapped inside of a Utah canyon. Before the accident. Before his infamous 2003 canyoneering accident and his true story was depicted in the Hollywood film 127 Hours, Aron Ralston was just an anonymous mechanical engineer from Denver with a passion for rock climbing. He studied mechanical engineering, French, and piano while at college in Carnegie Mellon University, before moving to the Southwest to work as an engineer. 5 years in, he decided corporate America wasn't for him and quit his job to devote more time to mountaineering. He wanted to climb Denali, the highest peak in North America, formerly known as Mount McKinley. In 2002, Ralston moved to Aspen, Colorado to climb full-time. His goal, as preparation for Denali, was to climb all of Colorado's 14ers, or mountains at least 14,000 feet tall, all of which there are 59, and he wanted to do them solo and in the winter, a feat that had never been recorded before. In February 2003, while backcountry skiing in Resolution Peak in central Colorado with 2 friends, Ralston was caught in an avalanche. Buried up to his neck in snow, a friend of his dug him out, and together they dug out the 3rd friend. "It was horrible. It should have killed us," Ralston said later. No one was seriously hurt, but the incident perhaps should triggered some self-reflection. A severe avalanche warning had been issued that day, and had Ralston and his friends checked before climbing the mountain, they could have saved themselves from a dangerous situation. But while most climbers might have taken steps to be more careful, Ralston did the opposite. He kept climbing and exploring hazardous terrain, completely solo, between a rock and a hard place. Just a couple months after the avalanche, on April 25, 2003, Aron Ralston have traveled to southern Utah to explore Canyonlands National Park. He slept in his truck that night, and at 9:15 the next morning, a beautiful sunny Saturday, he rode his bicycle 15 miles to Blue John Canyon, an 11-mile-long gorge that in some places is just 3 feet wide. He locked his bike and walked toward the canyon's opening. At around 2:45 p.m., as he descended into the canyon, a giant rock above him slipped. Ralston fell and his right hand became lodged between the canyon wall and the 800-pound boulder, leaving him trapped 100 feet below the desert surface and 20 miles from the nearest paved road. Ralston hadn't told anyone about his climbing plans, and he didn't have any way to signal for help. He inventoried his provisions: 2 burritos, some candy bar crumbs, and a bottle of water. He futilely tried chipping away at the boulder. Eventually, he ran out of water and had to drink his own urine. The entire time he considered cutting off his arm. He experimented with different tourniquets and even made several superficial cuts to test his knife's sharpness. But he didn't know how he'd saw through his bones with his cheap multi-tool. The kind you'd get for free if you bought a $15 flashlight, he later said. Distraught and delirious, Aron Ralston resigned himself to his fate. He used his dull tools to carve his name into the canyon wall, along with his birth date, the day's date, his presumed date of death, and the letters R.I.P. Then he used a video camera to tape goodbyes to his family.
My name's Aron Ralston. My parents are down on Larry Ralston of Englewood, Colorado. Whoever finds this, please make an attempt to get it to them.
And attempted to sleep. That night, as he drifted in and out of consciousness, Ralston dreamt of himself, with only half his arm playing with the child. Awaking, he believed the dream was a sign that he would survive and that he would have a family. With a determined sense of resolution, he threw himself into survival. A miraculous escape. The dream of a future family and a life outside the canyon left Aron Ralston with an epiphany. Using the torque from his strapped arm, he managed to break his ulna and his radius. After the bones were disconnected, he fashioned a tourniquet from the tubing of his camelback water bottle and cut off his circulation entirely. Then he was able to use a cheap, dull 2-inch knife to cut through his skin and muscles, and a pair of pliers to cut through his tendons. He left his arteries for last, knowing that after he severed them, he wouldn't have much time. All the desires, joys, and euphorias of a future life came rushing into me, Ralston stated at the press conference. Maybe this is how I handle the pain. I was so happy to be taking action. The entire process took an hour, during which Ralston lost 25% of his blood volume. High on adrenaline and the sheer will to live, Ralston climbed out of the slot canyon, rappelled down a 65-foot sheer cliff, and hiked 6 of the 8 miles back to his car, all while severely dehydrated, continuously losing blood, and one-handed. 6 miles into his hike, he stumbled upon a family from the Netherlands who had been hiking in the canyon. They gave him Oreos and some water, and quickly alerted the authorities. 4 hours after amputating his arm, Ralston was rescued by medics. They believed that the timing could have not been more perfect. Had Ralston amputated his arm any sooner, he would have bled to death. Had he waited, he would have died in the canyon. What can you say about Aron Ralston's survival? Comment your thoughts down at the comment section. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell.